All right, welcome back. This evening, we are welcoming back to the show for the second time, Jeff Messer. Last time he was on, it was, I'm going to get this wrong, it was Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, a comic book that he did. I got it wrong because he's laughing, so I'll just go ahead and bring him in.
Sex, Spies, and Rock and Roll. I was playing off of the Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll saying. So yeah, but close, right?
I knew I'd screw it up.
It's catchy, right? I mean, you hit it close enough, right?
Yeah. So before we get started talking about that, how did that Kickstarter turn out for you?
It went really well. It was, it was about a year ago, I guess, a little over a year ago at this point, and to date was my most successful Kickstarter. It outperformed my expectations, and did really, really well. So much so that before I could get the current Kickstarter ready to go, I had to push it back a little bit because of other logistics, which we can talk about later. And I early in January, I thought, I want to run another campaign, and I don't really know what to do. And so from the Sex, Spies, and Rock and Roll campaign, I thought, I'll do this really small Kickstarter. Just like, they do that thing in January, the Make 100 on Kickstarter, where you do 100 of something, and it's an exclusive type thing. And I thought, this is really cool. One of the features in the Sex, Spies, and Rock and Roll book was a full comic length adventure. And I thought, I'll break it out and do it as a standalone solo comic, limited edition, special edition, what have you. Add some new pages of extra art and story, kind of a director's cut, if you will. And we'll do like 100 of those signed and numbered, and it'll all be great. And I was just aiming for like $2,000 or something. Like, really small. I mean, it was really tiny. And within the first 2 days, all of those category levels were gone. And I was like, I've got 28 more days of a campaign, and I have nothing. So I started adding things, like I was offering anybody who missed the original book could get a copy of the book. And that started going and going and going. And then some of the artists I was working with, we started talking, and I said, well, hey, let's do let's do the next issue. Let's just go ahead and add the next issue of this to this campaign. And that got funded, and it just kept going. And it was to date, and this is the humble brag here. So I was trying to raise like $2,500 on that campaign. It ended at $26,000 and funded the next 2 books. And so I'm in the process of printing now from this tiny little Kickstarter, printing 3 full comics that got funded in the course of that campaign. So anybody who bid at the lowest level, like at the $10, $12 level, gets like 3 books, like 100 and some odd pages of comics now. And it was great because I got the other artists that I was working with, just started sending them script pages, like, oh, well, let's do a 6-page backup feature. And then that got funded. And I was like, well, let's do the second issue of the series. And that got funded. And I said, well, let's do a 6-page backup feature on that. And then that got funded. And then I was like, well, let's take the 6-page backup feature and make it its own separate comic, full-length comic. And then that got funded. And so it just kind of kept growing and growing. It was completely ridiculous and unexpected. And it was double the number of backers that I had from the previous campaign. And it was significantly more as far as funds go. And so I've spent the past 6 months working on creating all of this stuff now. It was like, man, I didn't expect to have this much work to do, but it turned into a really kind of cool experience. And we're so far ahead on what we had wanted to do this year that when we do another one of those campaigns, probably in October, people who missed this last one and knew about the first one will come back and go, how did I miss an entire volume of this book now that is already out, that now I'm getting the third one or whatever. And so it's going to be fun to kind of go and visit that again soon, I hope. And I'm wrapping up that one right now. The Robin Hood one that's current is in the process of wrapping up as well. Art, color, all the art, everything is pretty much done. And we waited to do this Kickstarter mainly because a publisher in the UK has picked us up, I guess, is the parlance, to put us out in Britain and in Europe in the news shops and all of those things. And they wanted to do volume 1 initially in March of this year. They were going to announce it at a Comic-Con in the UK. And they had to postpone it because the cover artist that they got to do the cover for us, his father fell ill and he had to deal with a lot of things. And he fell behind in his workload. And so the book got pushed back. So we had to push back this Kickstarter because we didn't really want to sort of, we wanted to space it out so that it came out kind of reasonably close together. And the artist of the cover, I should lead with this, is legendary comic book artist Barry Kittson is doing the cover for the UK edition of the Robin Hood comic. So
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's been around for a bit. He and Mark Waid do a lot of stuff together, and it's always really, really, really good. So the company in the UK is called Shift Presents, and they've locked up a deal with Mark and Barry for their Independent Empire is the name of the series. Came out from Image sporadically over the past 20 years, and a lot of that sort of indie publishing that eventually, I think, led to Kickstarter, the way that people use Kickstarter today, was kind of happening, and those guys did that book. So Shift is putting that out, and they were like, hey, Barry, would you like to draw a Robin Hood cover for a new project? And he said yes, which was just absolutely, utterly insane. And I've seen the line art the line art for the cover. It's not finished yet. He's going to paint it and everything. So it's going to be a really, really cool kind of thing. So we wanted this campaign to happen relatively close to that. And it looks like that book will be out by the end of the year, around the same time that this one will be shipping to backers as well. Or by Christmas, everybody will have volume 1 in the UK and then volume 2 on Kickstarter. Hopefully in the UK, volume 2 will be 6 months later, and then we'll have volume 3 done, and so forth and so on. So we've got 4 of these that we're doing. So that's kind of the schedule we're on. So we're kind of playing the game of, let's wait until they're ready to put the first volume out in the UK, and then we'll keep rolling with the rest of the stuff. So it's allowed us to finish the book, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Robin Hood graphic novel. How did it how did you come up with the idea? I mean, I get a lot of Prince Valiant, newspaper strip vibes from what I've seen.
Yes, yes. In fact, the artwork behind me is a double page spread from the book itself. So you can see it's got a classic kind of comic art style to it. You can kind of see this grand scene that Chris Geary, the artist, drew, and it doesn't feel all kind of new and fancy. It feels kind of classic, Bronze Agey, if you will. A lot of it. I kind of when we latched on to the artist Chris Geary, and he's in the UK, and the colorist Gareth Audie is in the UK as well. So that gives us a little bit of British credibility, we hope, because myself and the other writer, Robert Akers, are a couple of American dudes, and it's like American dudes writing Robin Hood. Come on, how good could it be? It's like, no, we've got legit, British guys who are working on the book, and my goodness, Barry Kittson's doing a cover for us, so we must be okay at some level. So this one that we're running now is the second issue. It's a 56-page oversized graphic novel. Think about those 80s graphic novels that Marvel and DC did. The Death of Captain Marvel that Jim Starlin did, I think, was one of the very first ones. They were kind of a larger size format. They weren't your standard size comics. And so that's what we are doing this one in. So it's a bit bigger than your normal comic. And it just has a little more heft to it. Each issue is 56 pages. So it's like 2 issues instead of 1 in each book. So where did this all start? The thing about this is it's based on a stage play that Robert Akers and I wrote in the late 90s, early 2000s. The show was produced in the year 2000 and became a huge hit. And we had worked with this local theater throughout the 1990s and sort of blackmailed our way into, hey, we've got a script, take a look and see if you want to do it, because they had introduced this concept of, they had done Treasure Island, I think, in 1998, and then in 1999 they did a version of Beauty and the Beast, and they're like, oh, we kind of like this classic sort of literary feeling theatrical experience. It's something they could get sponsorships for and could sell a lot of tickets to families, and so Robert and I had talked about writing a project together, and we both were big fans of Robin Hood. And we thought, wow, there's never been a Robin Hood play. That makes no sense. Why has there not been like a big Broadway, play or a musical or something of Robin Hood? It makes no sense. That's one of the best stories out there. You have to do nothing to sell Robin Hood to an audience. Most audiences look at a list of shows from a theater and I don't know the titles of any of this, but we'll go see them. What the heck? You show them Robin Hood and they go, well, I know what that is. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm getting just from the title. It's one of the most well-known characters in all of literature and history.
In your version, does a fox play the lead character?
Well, he is a bit of a fox, but no. It is funny that the scenic artist for the first production that we did had a giant backdrop of Sherwood Forest, and you could see a trail leading off to the castle in the background. Very lusciously painted thing. And over in one corner where nobody could see it, he drew Sir Hiss, the snake, hidden kind of in the trees and stuff. So it was a little in joke, and if you only got up close to it, you could see it. But no, this is more of I put it in the kind of the lead up in the Kickstarter. Basically says, if you're tired of Hollywood screwing up Robin Hood every time they try to reinvent it, then this is the version that you're looking for. We go
Kevin
back.
Costner nailed the character.
If you watch that movie with the volume off, it looks like the greatest Robin Hood film ever made. When you start listening to the story and the dialogue and the script, you start really wondering what they were thinking, but it looks great. For whatever. And the Russell Crowe thing was a decent effort to go, oh, we're going to be like super serious about it now and just serious it up. And then of course The Taron Egerton one from a couple of years ago was a just glorious hot mess of like, is it steampunk? Is it medieval? Is it? They look like they're doing something, out of like the 90s here. And what is this shanty town across the river from Nottingham Castle where there is no river and no shanty? What's there was nothing about that was redeemable. And let me think. No, there was nothing redeemable. I saw it, so nobody else had to. But when we did this was kind of during that fallow period for Robin Hood. Prince of Thieves had come out, and I think there was a really bad. Men in Tights had come out, obviously, and there was a really bad like cable TBS or TNT or whatever cable network Robin Hood series that was on, that was around that time of Xena and Hercules and whatnot. So it's got to have that flavor to it. So people had kind of forgotten Robin Hood. We were both big fans of the original, and we were also fans of the 80s, the Robin of Sherwood, the BBC series that's delves a little more into the mystical side of things. And Jason Connery wound up playing Robin Hood at the latter half of the show. My friend and a guy I've worked with in comics, Mark Ryan was in that TV series playing Nasir, who was the first Muslim character to appear in the Robin Hood, mythos at any point in history. Now it's a staple. Now everybody, he's got to have a Muslim buddy to run with now. And that was all started back in the 80s with Mark Ryan's character. But that show was really, really well done and felt historically accurate. And so we kind of latched onto that. And one of the things, we grew up the Star Wars generation. I saw Star Wars when I was 6 years old at a drive-in movie theater. And that type of storytelling is what made me want to be a writer. And Robert felt very much the same way. And so when we approached writing the Robin Hood scripts, we were like, let's do it like a Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, like that flavor, the high adventure, the very clear-cut villain, good guy. There's just something about it that's so pure. And it's like, what if we did Robin Hood like that? And so that's what we attempted with the theater play. And after it was a huge success. It's been produced a number of times over the years, not as much as we had wanted to, because guess what? It's really expensive to put on a production that requires 30 actors, and half of them have to know how to sword fight, and you have 10 or 15 people on stage at once doing hand-to-hand combat and sword fighting and all of this stuff, because it's big and swinging from the rafters kind of thing, and very stunt heavy. It's more like the Indiana Jones stunt show at Disney than an old Coward play. So the people who saw it in theater were just like, whoa, this is insane. This is like a movie on stage. We kept thinking, well, we want to do more with this. And so we wrote some additional scripts. Like, we continued telling the story of the legend further and further out from the beginning. And more theaters did it gradually. And in 2018, a big outdoor Shakespeare company took it on, decided to do it. And they've been around for almost 50 years. And this became the biggest box office and attendance record breaker in the history of this theater in the summer of 2018. And we were like, man, the magic is back. We were feeling the magic kind of feeling. And I had just started working with Mike Grell on doing Kickstarters and publishing some of his projects. And I'd gotten to know him reasonably well over the years prior to that. And I was like, maybe we should find an artist, and we should do Robin Hood as a comic book. We can expand the story, tell more than you can do in a stage play. We can go to the Crusades. We can go through a harsh winter and things you can't pull off on stage. And as a result, we started working on it. Found Chris Geary over in the UK to draw it, and it just, boom, there it was. And so we launched the first one right in the middle of the pandemic, which was good and bad, because of course we were all stuck at home and could work nonstop on creative projects for several months. But the bad part was getting it printed and shipped, and lots of logistical issues that I'm sure everybody out there has been living with. 2021, I was like, oh, it's going to get better. It didn't get better. It just got worse in different ways. And so now we feel like, oh, now we can kind of get back on track, because even though we launched it 2 years ago almost, we really haven't felt like we've got to where we want to be, because we want to donate copies to schools and copies to children's hospital charities and things like that, free copies of the book, because it does have that application that it works, perfectly for, 8 years old all the way up to 80. And so, we just decided that was something we wanted to do, is a lot of charitable stuff. And of course, schools were doing Zoom, and the hospitals had their hands full. And so we're like, there's no time for funny books. Let's just hold off until this whole thing's over. And so we just kept creating and kept working, and building up more and more material. But anyway, that's like the longest answer to the shortest question in all of humanity. So I apologize, but that's sort of the windy path of how we got here.
No, it was a long and windy path, but it was very interesting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I hope I'm not boring anybody with it, but it was a lot of fun, and to see it come to life is really kind of cool. Like I said, expanding it and being able to start the story in places before the play began, and tell just a bigger story, and spend more time with the characters and creating a larger universe, I think is the great aspect of the comic. And Chris is a very cinematic artist, so if we can get this book in front of people who do film and TV, then other people who think they can write Robin Hood can complain about our version having been a horrible version as well. But that's all just wishful thinking at this point. We're just going to tell the story and kind of let it lay there, and see if anybody has any interest in it, because I think it's faithful. I think it's not too dark, it's not too silly, it's got enough swashbuckle and comedy and romance and a lot of heart to it as well. Just we try to infuse it with a lot of heart. And we're living in a world where the concepts of a Robin Hood type figure are certainly welcome, I think, on most places on the planet Earth at this moment. If some dude in a green hood started rolling around and bringing justice to the common man, and probably be pretty popular, I would say. Yeah.
Now, is there a certain character that you have enjoyed, writing the most, or one that maybe when you first started you were like, oh, this is a boring character, but I think we're going to make him more interesting?
Yeah, the beauty of having done it as a play is that you get actors to say the lines for you. You get actors to, even in the first play, it was interesting because we had this full cast of Alan Adale and Will Scarlett and all of these other characters, and we created a lot of characters, mostly female characters, just because it's kind of a boy thing. Like Robin Hood is just a very boy thing, and we're like, no, and we've seen there have been people who've tried to do, oh, we're going to make Marion the main character and focus on her, and it's like, well, historically that it's hard to play that card if you want to be historically accurate. But you can play it as she's a spy inside the castle who's secretly getting information to her boyfriend and his friends to help them right what is wrong. And so we have a female character that's a castle servant who is willingly working as a castle servant in order to just spy and putting her life at risk. And we gave the sheriff a wife who is 3 times as smart as he is, and possibly twice as evil. But because of her station in life, she spends most of the time hiding behind the tapestries, listening, and then coming out and giving them what for and telling them, no, this is how you do it. This is what we need to do. So she's kind of the brains of the outfit. And to answer that question, the most fun that we had, and of course you give actors the opportunity, even if they have no lines of dialogue and they're on stage, they're doing business, they're creating things, they're making the characters interesting and giving them a personality. And so they really brought characters like Will Scarlett to life, and Alan Adale, and there are just so many other characters that could easily get washed into the background, and really brought out this kind of vivid life and a real tapestry of characters so much so that the audience would identify with different ones. Most of the audience can't identify with Robin Hood, right? It's just like he's too good, he's too noble, he's, and as a character, he has to say all the right things. As a character, his device is that he gets to make the flowery speeches and he gets to be, Mr. Debonair, which can be less fun to write, because it's like, well, he has to serve this function. He has to be the hero, the capital H hero. But other characters who have less pressure or less on their shoulders are more fun. And as a result of doing the play, when we thought, well, we don't want it to be funny. We don't want people go, oh, you're doing men in tights, ha ha ha. We didn't want that. So we let the villains be funny, but only situationally funny. And oh my God, the most fun writing had to have been the scenes with Sir Guy of Gisborne, the sheriff, Prince John, and then the sheriff's wife, Gertrude, when she would come in, when Prince John would leave. And so it was this power dynamic. And again, she was the smartest one of the bunch out of all of them. And so she could figure things out and had better plans. And of course, the sheriff takes the credit for it. Sir Guy of Gisborne, who traditionally in Robin Hood has been played up as being, macho and tough. We think of the BBC Robin Hood show from about 15 years ago with, what's his name? Richard Armitage, the big hunky dude that was playing Sir Guy of Gisborne. And everybody's like, oh, just swooning for him more than Robin Hood. And it was like, our Guy of Gisborne was an absolute idiot. He was the sheriff's cousin. He is a landed gentleman. He is the heir to vast estates. And of course, as such, and having that familial relationship with the sheriff is trying to exploit his cousin. And to do that, he's put him in charge of things. Like, you're in charge of the garrison, and I'm going to make a military man out of you if it kills you, kind of thing. And the guy is just not fit for this at all. And so he continually fails in peculiar ways. And he goes back to report to the sheriff, who is being chewed out by Prince John for being an idiot. And then Prince John storms out, and the sheriff berates Sir Guy of Gisborne for being an idiot. And then his wife Gertrude comes out and just shreds them all. And so a lot of really dark comedy, because they're bad guys, and so they get to say evil things that in real life would not be funny, but if you put the right spin on it, it can be funny on stage. And we were lucky enough to have 4 actors in the first production, and most productions of it, the actors who get those roles are just like, oh, this is juicy, like getting to be up there and just chew the scenery and just be so big and so bad and kind of dumb. The audiences love it. And that's one of the things, like, oh, you have to have the villains, and the villains have to do so much stuff, but the audience can't hate them. The audience can't go, oh, the bad guys are here, let's go to the bathroom. It can't be the thing they walk out on. So we gave them interesting things to do, and interesting relationships and dynamics. And as a result, it was always my favorite stuff that we wrote in the plays. And in the comics, we're just now getting into some of that stuff, because we got to write a lot of setup material that was not on stage in the play. So we're just now getting into the juicy parts where the interactions with those characters will start to really come out. We get to set things up in a kind of a different way. And comics are it's a different medium, so jokes that you can do on stage, they may not work on the page. So we're kind of facing that challenge of how do we keep them grounded and funny, but not, too goofy or silly, as could be the case. And, we just, in this new issue, there's a scene where we kind of get the first taste of that. And I think it went pretty well. One of the gags that runs through the plays that we're keeping in the comics, and I think this will appeal to audiences, is that every time Robin Hood robs Sir Guy of Gisborne, he takes his money and he takes his clothes. And because, his clothes are valuable. He's rich, and he's wearing all this decadent, opulent stuff. And so there's a running joke of, like, every time he gets robbed, he loses his clothes. And so, For the actors who played it, it was always a humorous sight gag to be standing there in your underwear or, medieval undergarments, I guess you could say. But anyway, so yeah, those are the most fun at this point, and then I think they always will be. The heroes have to do certain things, as I said, and the villains are just juicier. And as actors, you want to play. You always like to play, and I used to do a lot of theater myself. You prefer to play the bad guys just because it's more fun on stage. So.
All right, let's talk about the Kickstarter itself. So what are you offering, as
Yes, there we go.
rewards for backing the project?
As is the custom on Kickstarter, if you're on to volume 2 or issue 2 or issue 3 of whatever project you're doing, it's always wise to go ahead and just offer issues 1 moving forward, just because chances are you have people who missed the first one. They're just discovering it for the first time, and you don't want them to go, "Oh, it's issue 2. I'll just wait because I want to wait till it's all out." No, you want to get them in, so give them the opportunity to get both volumes 1 and 2 just to get caught up. It's pretty standard. I try not to overwhelm with so many categories. I'm not a fan of the covers A through G options that a lot of Kickstarters do. I try to keep it simple. I try to keep it very straightforward. We have a main cover you're scrolling past right now. That's the line art for Chris Geary's main cover that he just finished recently. And the beauty of that piece is that it is what you're seeing there is a tiny close-up of a much bigger scene. And so in the middle of the book, you're going to get the full center spread of this giant scene, of which this is just a tiny piece. And this is like zoomed in. And so the bigger image you'll see in the middle of the book is the zoom out of this. They're obviously flirting and have eyes for each other, but all manner of chaos is going on around them. And you can kind of see hints of it in this image. So the full image will be pretty fun once it's complete. Bo Hampton did a cover for us for the first book. He came back to do one for the second book, which is really, really cool. That's it right there. Christopher Schink is doing a cover for us as well. Don't have the art for that yet. He did the Eclipse Comics Robin Hood miniseries in 1991, which was like he and Tim Truman did it, and it was half painted, half art. It's a very interesting series if you ever get a chance to pick it up. But I got to know him on social media and just was like, hey, you got a connection. Let's get you involved in this. I've also recently hooked up with some great folks like Ron Randall and Bob Hall, who are both well-known comic book artists. And Ron Randall is a great Kickstarter campaign runner. He's one of the most successful guys on Kickstarter, and he does it right, in my opinion. He's a real inspiration. But he's been very supportive of this project and of other projects I've done. And I reached out to him and said, hey, would you like to do a pinup? And so he's doing a pinup for us. I was at a convention with Bob Hall several months ago, got to know him really well. He's worked in theater too, so we got to talk a lot about theater and kind of the connection points there. And then I just asked him at the con, I said, would you do a Robin Hood piece? And so he did a pinup for us. And my friend and comic book legend, Mike Grell, who is quite well known for the Green Arrow and is very derivative of Robin Hood, of course. And Mike has done some pieces. He did a charity poster for the theater production in 2018 that helped raise almost $3,000 for local charities at the show. We did a art print of it and sold it at the show, with the logos and everything on it for the play, the dates and all that. So it was a commemorative poster for the run of the play. And he did a fully painted image for us. You can get that in the campaign, plus a couple of newer pieces that he did for me and Robert privately that we have hanging on our walls. And we're like, oh, these are too good not to share with people. So we're doing art prints, and there's a poster of one of them that's just this really glorious piece. And this is for people who waited until the final 10 days or so of the campaign, the last 10 days of the Kickstarter campaign include a very special. I opened my email this morning from Mike Grell, and he's looking at it and he's going, "Hi, you got like 2 weeks to go, and I see that you're like what 75-80% funded." And he goes, "Why don't I do a variant cover for you?" Like just out of the blue. He's just like, "Hey, what if I did a cover for you?" And I'm going to say no to that.
Never, never.
Yeah. But I told him, I was like, having you do a variant cover for volume 2 seems low for somebody of your stature. Let's come up with a better idea for this. And so here's the kicker. Here's the Mike Grell special for this campaign in the last 10 days only, is that we're going to do a limited to 100 copies for his cover of both volume 1 and 2, 56 pages each, so 112 pages under one cover. So anybody who's missed the first issue that's just now jumping in, you can get both the first and second as one book under Mike Grell's cover. So it's going to be completely unique. We'll offer 100 on Kickstarter. We'll probably do a print run of no more than 150 copies, and that may be it forever. That is maybe the only time that will ever exist. And his offer was so generous. He's offering to do art print, some art prints of his cover, that 100 of them to go with the 100 books, signed and numbered, limited edition. Nice. by Mike Grell. So that's the big one at the end. That's our final 10 days includes that as a new campaign item, and unsolicited. He reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, I've got an idea." I'm like, "Genius! This guy's the man's a genius." But I got to say, I've been traveling, doing a lot of conventions in the past year with Mike. His wife had some shoulder surgery, and so she couldn't travel with him. And so I've done about 6 cons since last July with him, and been out on the road and just really have had a great time. I took some of the Robin Hood comics with me to one of the shows, gave away to kids for free and things like that, as part of what we were wanting to do with it as much as possible. And Mike has just been a tremendous supporter. Like once I showed him the finished product of this, and then I showed him the Sex, Spies, and Rock and Roll project. Every time I go to a show now, I wind up being treated as nice as they treat him, because he'll copy me in the emails with these con promoters. He's like, "I'm copying Jeff on this. You need to meet him. He's got this project." And I'm like, "You're overselling me, dude. You're like really overselling me." So much so that I showed up at GalaxyCon in Richmond, and we had his table was right here with his name on the sign. And I look next to his table, and there's a sign with my name on it. And I'm just like, so I was a guest. I was like actually on the guest list because he had oversold me to the convention. And I was just like, "Look, Mike, that just means you've got like extra tables. We're just going to spread out, because it's like what you have versus what I have. Trust me, they're here to see you." But yeah, it's been great fun. And I worked on the book with Tomorrow's Publishing about Mike's life and career that in a couple of years ago, or the last time they had a San Diego Comic-Con in 2019, I was there because that book got nominated for an Eisner. And so the other writer and I both got treated to that experience. And it really, the pandemic, I have this love-hate thing for the pandemic, because the love thing is that it helped me work on all these projects and get things done. But the hate thing was that I left San Diego ready to fully embrace, comics, and I'm going to chart a course and have a career, and I'm going to do all these things. And of course, no, you got to wait. You now have to, sit back and wait. But it's taught me patience, and it's helped me work on more stuff. So, coming out of this, I'm really excited now because, we can finally sort of share all this stuff with the world
Hmm.
in a bigger way, I hope.
That's going to be one of my other questions. How has it been, being back out conventions and stuff like that? Because I see the pictures that you post, and
It's
how,
fun, man. It's so much fun. In fact, being out with Mike is always great, and his fan base is so loyal and so loving of his work. Going back to the Warlord and Legion of Superheroes back in the '70s, and lots of Green Arrow, and then you see these young kids come up, and they're just like, because he sells art prints of the Wanted poster from the Arrow TV series, which he drew, for the
Mhm.
TV show, and also, in the first episode, like in the first 2 minutes of the first episode of Arrow, he gets name dropped because um,
For
the
some reason.
yeah. Well, no, it was I'm trying to remember the actor Katie Cassidy, who played Laurel Lance, which neither here nor there. The Black Canary issues that show had are many. Um, but she was working for the DA. Her character was working for the
Mhm.
DA's office, and they're doing this walk and talk like Aaron Sorkin style down a hallway, and they're complaining about Judge Grell. They have to, have to try something
Yeah.
before Judge Grell. So it's like, they tuned it in, and I was watching it, and like in the first 2 minutes, I'm like, oh my god, it's like they totally name dropped Mike Grell right there, as some sort of hard ass corrupt judge. It was kind of amazing. So there are lots of kids, younger kids, who come up and they make that connection, and it's always cool to see because they see that poster and they kind of go, "Is this from the TV show?" And it's like, "Yeah, he drew that for the TV show."
Let
Wait,
me
who
show
did
you
that?
these.
Yeah, and it's like, and the Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunters, is the thing that made that TV show really possible. Kind of, if you go back and look at it, and so you kind of get these wide eyed kids with their parents and everything else, and so I've gotten to meet a lot of Mike's fans and become friends with them as well. Guys who, depending on regionally, if you're in the southeast, these guys will come to every show, and he's got so many great fans. And now I feel like I'm kind of getting into that community a little bit, and just sharing that experience with him, and getting to be with other creators, uh, who at first they're like, oh yeah, we'll be nice to him because Mike seems to like him, kind of thing. But I'm suddenly like, oh, I get to go, back in the green room, and I get to meet, and had drank some whiskey with Brent Spiner of Star Trek for no apparent
Mhm.
reason, just because I was with Mike and we were in the green room. That's kind of cool. And we were in Cleveland at Fan Expo 2 months ago, and Bo Hampton was there, and I met Bo Hampton at a Dragon Con 15 years ago, maybe not, maybe 12 years ago, and just kind of made a passing connection with him when we did the first Robin Hood book 2 years ago. I reached out to him because he's done Robin Hood. He did a horror kind of zombie Robin Hood graphic novel called Demons of Sherwood. And if people can find it, it is so much fun. But he did that in 2008 or so. And I was a fan of it. So I sought him out and got him to sign it, and, told him, hey, I've written a Robin Hood play and blah, 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 all this stuff. Well, I reached back out to him 2 years ago to do a variant cover for the first one, and he obliged, and it was great. And so we stroll up to Fan Expo in Cleveland with Mike, and we're setting up Mike's table, and Bo is Hampton's table is right next to his, and we start chatting, introduce each other, and he's giving me this funny look, and he goes, where do I know you from? And I said, well, funny story. I'm the Robin Hood guy that you did the cover for. He's like, oh, gotcha. And so from that point on, I was cool with him. And so we hung out with him and Alex Saviak, and the whole weekend, the four of us were kind of hanging out. And by the end of it, Bo was asking me, he's like, I've got some projects and, thinking about Kickstarter, and you seem to know what you're doing, and you've helped Mike, would you help me out? And I was like, yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And by the end of the weekend, I was like, would you like to do a cover for volume 2? And voila, he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so that was great fun. So I got that from Cleveland, but I also 2 days after I got back from Cleveland, I get a panicked phone call from Mike Grell going, "I just tested positive for COVID. You need to go get checked right now." And sure enough, I had COVID as well. And so, Mike and I have shared a lot in the past year of travels, including both getting COVID in Cleveland at Fan Expo. So, I guess that keeps us close for life now. We've had that experience.
COVID,
a viral exchange of some sort. But no, it's been great. Other than that, it's been great, and it wasn't bad. I mean, both Mike and I fully vaccinated, boosted, the whole thing, and so it was mild, and it was not. I never felt like I was at risk of dying or anything. So I was more worried about him because he'll be 75, gosh, in a couple of months. But we both came out of it fine and lived to do another con. We went to Heroes Con in Charlotte just a few weeks ago and had a blast. And then I get to hang out with Walt Simonson and Larry Hama and some other people because they're like, "Oh, Mike," I'm like, yeah. So I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain at all.
Just being a fly on the wall.
Yes, exactly.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to say about the Kickstarter, or I don't want to keep you much longer?
No, I appreciate this. It's always fun hanging out with you and chatting. No, I mean it's you're looking at the screen now. It's 13 days. The Mike Grell stuff will be posted in the next couple of days. Like I said, the last 10 days or so of the campaign is when we're going to go live with all of that. And with some luck, it'll push us up over the top. It was weird. There was a glitch of some sort on Kickstarter in the second week. I launched really strong out of the gate. The campaign did really, really well. And then suddenly it came to a screeching halt. And then I was noticing on Kickstarter that my activity page was not updating. Like you can click activity, it shows you all the other campaigns that you're following and all the other information that people you're following and what's going on and who's posting updates. And none of it was updating. Like it all stopped updating around, June 26th for like almost a week. And I reached out to Mike Spring, who's got a great Kickstarter campaign up right now for the Red, White, and Broke series that he just wrapped up. He's doing a trade paperback of. Mike is awesome. Mike Spring.
Just talked to him this weekend.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I love that guy. He and I are the Mutual Admiration Society. It's like we try to run campaigns close to each other so we can like share resources and everything. But I was talking with him and he was just like, he's like, "Oh man, mine has been dead. Mine has been completely dead." And I was like, "Mine has too." And my activity screen on Kickstarter is not updating. So I'm not seeing your updates. I'm not seeing anybody else's updates. And he goes, "I'm not seeing anybody's either." And we talked to other campaigns and they were all having the same issue. We all reported it to Kickstarter and voila, it got fixed. And suddenly the backers started coming again. And I was just like, man, we all lost like 6, 7, 8 days of our campaigns where it was like, one backer a day, sometimes, 2, sometimes 0. And we were all sitting there going, "Oh, what have we done wrong? What has happened?" And just the visibility of a lot of Kickstarter campaigns seem to just take a nosedive. So I feel like we lost a week. I think we would have been closer to being funded at this point. Based on the last campaign and other campaigns I've done. So, if people are watching this, and want to jump in, we could use the boost right now because part of the algorithm of Facebook has to do with, well, how much traffic is your page getting? And, when nobody could see the updates, we were getting no traffic and other campaigns suffered the same thing apparently. So we kept falling lower in the algorithm. And so the visibility was just really low for this campaign, and I feel like it slowed us down just a little bit. I set the goal for this one at the exact point of what we raised on the last Robin Hood campaign because I thought that seems like a fair number to shoot for, and if you can pick up another 50, 60 backers that are new, which oddly enough, we've picked up some new, considerable amount of new backers that missed the first campaign. And, you should, last time we did like 220 backers, we should get close to 300 this time, just based on the way I've seen Kickstarter working. And it might be a little bit of a struggle for us to get there this time because of that weird little glitch that happened. But I still feel confident. We're gonna get it there. Everything's back up and running, and the Mike Grell incentive I think will help a ton as well. So we'll see. I encourage people not just to check out my campaign, but look for some of the others out there as well. Chris Geary, the artist for us, is doing a Dracula series right now. I think they're in their final 5 or 6 days of that campaign. Same thing happened to them, so they're way behind where I think they should be. I think they've still got 50% more to raise on that campaign, which is a real uphill climb. So if people get a chance to check it out, they should. I've posted it in some of my updates and several other really great campaigns out there. I try to be as active as far as supporting other Kickstarters as I am on Kickstarter. And it's a ton of fun. I truly think this is the new independent publishing platform. I see a lot of even bigger creators who have gotten deals with other companies. Scout Comics and some other companies are publishing their stuff, but they're coming back to Kickstarter because it's so free and so lucrative to them for new projects, and then they'll go on to the other publishers after that. So I don't know. I think this is where the true independent comics are happening right now. You don't have any limitations. You can be as creative as you want to be. You can be as profane as you want to be, I guess. There's lots of I see lots of campaigns out there, and I'm like, really? Okay. And then you see that they're funded and funded at 500% of their goal, and you're like, oh well, I guess people are into that, whatever that thing is. It's like it's a gimmick. And who am I kidding? When I came up with the sex, spies, and rock and roll thing, the cover art, the stuff that I put together, I was like, I'm aiming this right at what is clearly a large population of Kickstarter supporters who like the edgier, sexier kind of thing. Robin Hood is not one of those things. This is more of a family-friendly thing, but it's also high adventure. It's also, if you like Star Wars, if you like, Errol Flynn's Robin Hood, if you like, just fun storytelling that's got a little heart and soul to it, I think you'll like this. It's Robin Hood's such a universal thing. How can anybody not like it? Yeah. That's my hope. Anyway. And look at this. Look at this stuff behind. This is the Chris Geary's artwork is just insane. I mean, just look at this expansive. He turns these pages in, and I'm just like, I just ask you for like a market scene, a little montage thing, and he throws together this. I mean, you can see the depth of these characters. It's just insane. Yeah. I stared at this page, and this is before it even got colored. I stared at this page for like an hour because there are so many characters hidden in the background, and it's like Robin Hood is back there as well, walking through the crowd. Like right there he is. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I think it's gorgeous. I'm biased, but I think it's gorgeous. I think Chris's art.
And again, I love the fact. Like I said in the beginning, I love the fact that it has that, Prince Valiant feel.
Yeah, when I first saw his artwork, I felt a real Alex Toth vibe, like classic, And the more I looked at it, I was like, oh, there's even little hints of like early 80s Frank Miller, early, Mike Mignola even. There's this weird blend that Chris's style comes from so many different places, and it's this kind of hodgepodge of a lot of things that ends up being uniquely his own by the time you kind of get to the end of it. But it really is fascinating to sort of watch these pages come in and just marvel at the talent that he has. I cannot believe, and he's a little bit of a bigger name in the UK. There's like a whole culture over there of artists. that people love that have never been heard of in the States, which is to me really strange. And Chris is one of them. I mean, the company Shift Presents is an anthology book over there, and Chris was doing some anthology work for this publisher, and they were just like, "Hey, what are you working on now?" And he told them about Robin Hood. They totally stalked us. That was secretly stalked us and backed the campaign. And then after the campaign was over, the guy reached out and he was like, "Hey, let's talk. I want to put this out over here because I think Chris's work is gorgeous. I think he's got a following. I think there's an audience for it here as well." So we started negotiating that about a year ago, just figuring out the logistics of it, and it even helped with fulfillment of the first Robin Hood book. I was able to print. The printer that I use has printing shops in England and in Australia and Canada and all over the place. So we were able to send the files to the UK place, have them print 75 copies, send them to this guy, and I sent him a box full of all of the other Kickstarter goodies, and he helped us distribute them over in the UK because the fact of shipping is
Yeah.
One book, if I mail it from here to Europe, it's $30 to ship it, which is insane. When we were able to print those and send them, directly to him in country, ship him all the stuff he needed, and it came out to like $7 per package
Oh, wow.
for him to ship. And so that's one way that I think a lot of Kickstarters are going to have to go to defeat the shipping cost. It's just become really obscene and prohibitive, so much so that I'm having to encourage as many people who back my campaign who are from other countries. I put the real shipping charge on there, and people go, "I'm getting a $10 book and I'm paying $25 for shipping," and it's like, yeah, that's going to be a break even amount for us. That's not us gouging. That's just the reality. And so I encourage them, if you are from a foreign country, and from overseas, from America, where I'm shipping from, and you really want to support the project, I really push the digital version of it. You get it's cheaper. You still get the story, you get the book, and at some point we'll do larger editions, and Shift in the UK will have editions out over there that you don't have to pay anything except for whatever the newsstand price is when it comes out. And hopefully that situation will be something we can replicate in Canada, maybe Australia. I mean, there was a point in the last year when packages in Australia were just being refused outright. They weren't letting people in. They weren't letting packages in. It was nothing. So, I had backers in Australia who are still waiting for packages because it's been so difficult to get things to certain parts of the planet. So I always push. It's like, if you really like this, you want to support it, and Kickstarter is supporting the creation of something, go digital. It's cheaper and you still get it, and it helps us in a big way, whether you realize
it takes up less space.
It does take up less space, but I just I can't read it digital. It just kills me. I have to have the book. I get it. I understand. And there are people, and God love them, there are people who support these campaigns that just bite the bullet and they go, "Yeah, I know, $30 to get it shipped to me, but I want it. I want this. I want to support it. I want the book. I want the goodies. I want the art prints and the whatnot, and all that stuff." And I appreciate that. And I've done that as well. There have been campaigns I've backed from other countries that I've been like, I just want this. I want this so bad that I'm willing to pay, and it's part of the process. So,
I was talking to somebody the other day who did one, and he was saying how once it's like 40 ounces, plus the shipping goes up, because my book was like 40.1.
Yeah. And you go, well, I can get a container to put it in that weighs less, but then it's going to get mangled because the manhandling. A true story. Here's a true story. So I did a campaign for Mark Ryan and Mike Grell that we launched it. literally on March 6th of 2020, and 4 days later, the pandemic hit. So we launched it at the absolute worst time. It was still successful because by the end, people realized they weren't going to starve to death penniless in the streets, and money was still going to exist and be something that they had. So the campaign was successful, but we were mailing that out in, October, November, December of 2020. And people were just like, where's my stuff? It's like, we have the proof that we shipped it. It's, just hang on. And so this one guy in Canada, and again, true story. This is going to sound completely insane, but this is a true story. There's one guy in Canada, and we were just insistent. It's like, look, we shipped it. The customs offices in Canada were the worst of any that I kind of experienced during that time. Like, things would get held up in customs forever, for like, a month, 2 months, or whatever. So we kept telling this guy to be patient. And finally, 6 months, I think 6 months passed. And he messages me and he goes, I got it. It's got stamps on it. Like, it was in Germany. The package went to Germany and sat where nobody could figure out what to do with it for months. And then somehow it finally made its way back to and I was like, how is this possible? This package just ended up in absolutely the wrong, and it's not even close. I mean, so, horror stories that we hope no longer exist out there in the world of shipping. But that is a true story. It happened. And, the guy finally got it, and the package was in great condition. Everything was fine in there, but it was just like, for no reason whatsoever, it had markings on it that indicated to him that it had spent time in Germany. So if you want to travel the world and you can fit into a Gemini mailer, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up, I'm sure we could probably talk all evening.
Oh gosh, yeah. No. Any topic, anything. I just go on and on.
But where can people find you on the social network?
Yes, the best places right now for me personally, and all the projects I do, I create Facebook and Instagram pages for them. I haven't quite figured out how to make the Twitter thing work for me, but we'll get there eventually. But right now, Robin Hood Comic Book Adventures on Instagram and Facebook, Sex, Spies, and Rock and Roll Comics on Instagram and Facebook, and just me by myself on there. And you can just follow any of those things. Pretty active. I'm such a spoiler freak. When I get pages in from these artists, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to share this. I'm so excited. And so I'll post,
Mm-hmm.
you'll wind up seeing about 60% of every book before it comes out, because I'm just going completely crazy wanting to share pages of artwork and things.
Well, because you're proud of it.
Yeah, no, and I think it really helps for people to sort of see it. It's like, wow, this is something. I get so many people. A buddy of mine and I went to a concert a couple of weeks ago and just hung out for the first time in years. And he's just like, I don't understand this thing you're doing, but I'm marveled by it. You're such, it's like we go into a pandemic and you come out and you're like publishing comic books. It's like, where did that come from? And I'm going, it's what I would have done, 30
Mm-hmm.
years ago if I'd had the nerve.
Mm-hmm.
But, true story. If I tried it 30 years ago, it wouldn't have worked. So this was the right time and the right place to do all this stuff. And I'm just having the time of my life. And I hope what I'm putting out there and working with, my partners in crime, we dig it, man. We're having the time of our lives. This is the kind of stories that we love to tell, and we think other people will too. So give it a try. We think you'll like it.
All right. Well, we'll wish you the best of luck, and I figure I feel that you're going to be successful with this Kickstarter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do too. I've got a lot of faith. Either that, or a week from now, every living relative that I have is going to be completely on the hook for at least $20. I'm going to just pester them no end until it happens. So that's part of the Kickstarter thing too. How much do you love me? That becomes the question, right? Do you love me $20 worth? All right. So if they can't support me, who should, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So now we'll get there. I feel confident we will, and people will have some of this lovely artwork in their hands before Christmas.
One quick funny story, and then I'll
Yeah.
definitely wrap it up. I know I sent you the link that I gave you a shout out on the Comic Watch Kickstarter corner.
Yes, appreciate that.
And this past week when I was editing it, the guy who I work with it on in the email one of the emails he got about different Kickstarters had your project in it. I was like, we were ahead of the ball on this. This
Yes.
was in last week.
Any week will do. It's like as long as the campaign's still running. Yeah. Don't do it in 2 weeks because it'll be too late.
Well, the way I have things going, I keep our past past 4 posts,
Right.
are there. Encourage people to kind of look back through and see what they have.
Yeah, that's the tough thing, is getting lost in the stream, because things get posted and it's like, there are people, and the same thing happens to me all the time too. I'll see a link to a Kickstarter campaign and I go, oh my gosh, this looks fantastic. And I'll click on it and it ended 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I not see this? The algorithms are not our friends some of the time. So there are people, who, will tell me, it's like after the campaign's over, they'll be like, I didn't even know this was going on. I'm like, how? I'm so horrible with sharing it on social media. I feel like I'm overkilling it some days. I'm like, I'm posting this so much so that I'm running the risk of people unfriending me. Because it's that month again. He's out there trying to get us to buy stuff. And then there are other people go, I had no idea you were doing this. It's just the way it is. So thank you for keeping all those things active so that people can still see them. It's important.
Well, we'll definitely, you're welcome back anytime. We'll definitely have to get together with Mike Spring and get him on there and have you guys.
Oh boy, that'll be fun. And he and I have never met face to face. Although I don't know, there's something dubious about him, because he was trying to get me to share a room with him for Terrificon, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, he just put a blanket solicit out there for a bunch of anybody who wants to share a hotel room or whatever. And I was like, it sounds like the beginning of a horror story, really. And it's like, I never heard from him again.
I may be taking my life in my hands then, because I'm seeing if he and the guy that he's rooming with for New York, are looking for another roommate.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's the way to do it. I admire his ability to go out and just kind of work the con circuit. I'm building up the nerve to start doing that myself a little bit more. So we'll see how all that goes in the near future. And in the near future too, I'm going to get Mike Grell to come on your show so you can spend some time with him. If you think I can
talk, I'll just be sitting here going.
Oh, that's all right. He can go for hours and hours and hours without ever being prompted with a question. He's got so many stories.
The time you drew Green Arrow, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
That issue where it was Oliver Queen and Warlord.
Oh,
and the one got mistake for the other.
Well, and true story on that. That was the suggestion of Dan Jurgens, who was doing the pencils for the Green Arrow book at the time, and Mike was a mentor to him, had helped him get his foot in the door, working at DC back in the early 80s, and put him on the Warlord book. And then when he did Green Arrow, he brought Dan Jurgens onto that book. And of course, Dan Jurgens went on to kill Superman a few years later, so and become immortal. Dan's a super great guy, but that whole idea of the Warlord meets Green Arrow thing was his pitch, He came up with that idea and told Mike that they should do it, and they did. And it's now everybody. Every time I go to a con, that book shows up for people to sign. They go, "This was so great! I can't believe you guys did this." So I've heard that story a number of times. And in fact, at GalaxyCon in Richmond back in February, Dan Jurgens was in the booth across from Mike for the whole con. So I got to see the two of them interacting together, which was pure joy. Like, yeah, just great stuff. Like I said, Mike will talk for hours and hours. You don't even have to wind him up that much. It's amazing.
Well, definitely looking forward to that. But
We'll do it.
you know, I'm gonna say good night and
Thank
good
you,
luck.
Chad.
And always a pleasure talking to you. And you're always welcome back whenever you're doing your next project.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate what you do.
All right, thanks. Have a good evening.
Take care.